my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Find a Way podcast with Dusty. Hopefully you're doing well. On the way to Planet Fitness this morning, so I figured I've got some time, about 15 minutes until arrival, and those are about the typical times for a podcast episode, so figured I'd check in. We're actually in St. Louis this week. My brother-in-law is out at camp with his son, so my sister-in-law is home with her son, so decided to come up here, give her some supports. I did have the triathlon on Sunday, which kind of lined up with us being here for the triathlon and us being here for a few days. So I am in the midst of navigating through new streets and new places and finding a rhythm. I think Planet Fitness has been great because there's been locations everywhere that we've gone, so I've been able to get into the same rhythm of going to the gym and been able to find some local tracks. In fact, what leads me to this episode is yesterday I did a 10-miler at a local track, and I had shared just simply, hey, this is a free option for many folks in the sense of if you got a public school and there's access to it, like the ones here around the St. Louis area, it's a great way to just do a few laps. Like if I knew that starting my journey at over 500 pounds, that there was a local track that I could just get up early and go and not feel intimidated by the commercial gym. Didn't have access around where my local apartment at the time. I had like a little walk. It wasn't even a walking trail. It was just kind of a cement that surrounded the apartment. I did that, and that worked when I started. If I could expand that to, a place where I had multiple lap options, I wish I did that, or I wish someone told me that. And I think about it, a lot of stuff that I post is stuff that I wish I was told or wish I knew when I was over 500 pounds. But there was a comment on the video that said, you should not do long distance on a track. And there was no rhyme or reason, just the simple fact that it's boring and it's repetitive and it's the same thing. But two things. First, I'm approaching it as someone that's starting the journey, feels intimidated by going to the gym. I've said that in the caption. I said that in the video itself. If you're starting the journey, this is a way for you to not feel intimidated by folks around you. It's a kind of a personal space where you can throw on some headphones. It's early. It's typically nice, crisp mornings. Just a lot of nice stuff that comes with it. So there's a family of deer. Actually, that's a buck. There's 2 bucks. Just chilling. Not even worried about the traffic. That's the thing about traveling these streets. There are significant bucks. Goodness. Well, these streets are got to be watchful. Nice thing about the podcast recording is that I don't have to look at anything. I don't have to see anything. I don't have to take my eyes off the road. I can pretty much stay focused, which is good, especially with deer. And them popping out of nowhere. The other morning when I was leaving the house for the triathlon, I left about 4 a.m. and there was 2 or 3 in the road that I had to be mindful of. So anyways, the distraction of deer, my apologies. But there was a comment of you should never, and it's like there's this universal you should never with some things. Like I'll talk about the track. You should never do long distance on the track. We'll go into you should never have surgery. You should never do a GLP-1. You should never do keto. You should there's a lot of universal you should nevers that folks just die on this hill and stand on this hill on online because you hear the comments of people saying it, in which I think behind that, who established that standard? Where is this standard published that people are referencing that is you should never? Is it just the societal norm? It's the society's acceptance rates on that particular approach of running, walking. You should never do I think Boston Marathon, it said, runners welcomed, walkers tolerated. Like, it obviously struck a chord because that was something that kind of blew up and became viral as far as that poster that they put up. But it was, okay, so the Boston Marathon, then there's a standard that you've got to run. And that if you walk, which I will say, the individual he passed recently, he developed the run-walk method, and how many folks have set PRs by the run-walk method. And so, there's this standard that you can't do a marathon unless you run it. You can't, there's so many you can'ts that come from, societal acceptance that it just doesn't make sense to me. Because there are so many different approaches, and let's just speak about weight loss. There's so many different approaches to weight loss. And to avoid surgery, great. To avoid medication, great. But it doesn't mean any kind of you can't or you shouldn't. All of this really has a medical professional, first of all, really needs to be the anchor on making decisions when it comes to weight loss. You go to a doctor, they recommend a XYZ diet. Okay, what's the basis out of your XYZ diet? If it's just a standard piece of paper that they've handed out to all doctors, give this to all your clients, and it's not personal to you, then understandably, that's an easy walk away from diet plan. Well, here, I've seen it before, and it's even with going to the doctor and if my kids are getting shots, there's this universal, this is what you should do after, this is what you should do before, and it looks like it was printed in 1980 and then just copied since then. I understand how there's a cookie cutter plan, but that's where your particular body, every body is different. And because every body is different, the approach to it should be different. It should be unique to that individual so that that person can be successful. If somebody is struggling with celiac, someone is gluten intolerant, someone is lactose intolerant, you give them this cookie cutter, you have this cheese, and it's not going to work. So having something personalized to you is important. Now, here's where the personalized comes in. If a personalized recommendation from a medical professional talks about surgery being an option because of the concern for life, or medication, or any number of diets, that's where the universal you shouldn't, from a societal perspective, goes out the window. You have to do what's best for you and your particular journey at the advice of not an influencer, not someone on social media, but by a medical professional. If someone is selling you drugs online and they get a commission, there's a problem there. Listen, hey, use my code for this injectable serum that isn't approved by the FDA. No, not going to do that. Nope, that's a big no. There's big no's out there, and that's one of them. A medical professional is going to be able to give you their medical expertise on what is truly needed for you and what is not necessary and what is excessive and what bypasses the societal, you should. It's well, settle down on you should. Settle down on societal expectations, and let's settle on, okay, what does a medical professional have to say? What is the approach that is going to be best for me long term? For me not to only lose weight, but to keep it off. Because that's the goal. That's where, let's talk about GLP-1s. Let's talk about surgery. Surgery and its features shut off. I know it was a medical thing where it took out a portion of your stomach. But that stomach can grow back. Like, you can fully eat like you used to eat 18 months to a year in, 18 months to 2 years in. You could potentially just eat like you were always eating. So, if you don't get the attraction to binge, the pull to overeat, to be at a calorie excess, you're just going to gain the weight back, like many folks have. And why many folks who even have the surgery struggle with getting to their goal weight, because it doesn't address the underlying approach and underlying issue, the addiction, the binge, the coping mechanism. It just simply provides you a tool. So whatever that tool is, whatever that thing is to get you to work out, to eat right. I mean, purposely saying a few times. Like the track. If doing a long distance on the track keeps you consistent, you enjoy it, it's something to where you can walk over to the school, you can drive over, 5-minute trip over to the school, and you meet a friend there. Hey, meet me at 6 a.m. at the track. Let's go walk some laps and talk. Boom. Pop in some earphones and listen to music while you do a couple laps on the track. Great. Whatever keeps you like, you shouldn't do long distance. Well, you shouldn't have an opinion. It's like social media has invited opinions that are not warranted. Like, we're good. Like, it's all right. Your opinion, you don't have to. You don't have to share your 2 cents. You don't have to share how you approach things, because how you do things isn't how everyone should do things. So, that's it. That's all. 12 minutes in. A little bit longer than our 8 or 9 minute episodes, but I'm hoping that just kind of provides you, hey, and that sounds like my opinion now. That provides you with my opinion, that you take it with a grain of salt, but I would think that is sound speech compared to restrictive, you should never. That's it. That's all, my friends. I hope you have a good rest of your day whenever you're listening to this. Let's get after it today. It's not in video form, but let's get after it today. Another day in the books, another day in the blur. Let's go.